Do you still find people who are amazed by this whole story, that a Yorkshire lad wrote one of the biggest disco songs of all time for one of the biggest groups of all time?
Yeah, there's a whole new generation now that, you know... At the time, you know, when I signed my first record deal, the record company just said, what a fantastic song, what a great, good vocal, everything's great, the production and everything. We were in Munich, sort of right in the middle of this disco boom, and then they were sitting down thinking, well, how can we market the whole thing? We've got this Yorkshireman with a beard, and it looks a bit rough. And they took it down to Cannes, the music festival.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Jackson's management, or Joe Jackson, picked up on it. And that's when it all started, really, is that I was signed to Warner's, they were signed to CBS from after leaving Motown.
Yeah.
And that's when the Battle of the Boogie thing, when everybody sort of took sides and, you know, sort of Capitol played my track and then Radio 1 were playing the Jacksons and then...
There was this big battle, but the fact that you both got the same name, the two Mick Jacksons, Michael Jacksons competing, was just an added bonus to this little story, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It was all about the song, really, and two Michael Jacksons.
So let me get this straight then. So you recorded the song, it had gone down to the Cannes Song Festival.
Yeah.
Joe Jackson Sr. heard it, picked up on it, and then what happened next? Did he just take it away to the States? There was no coming to you and asking your permission if the Jacksons could record it or anything like that?
No. They did sort of a bit of a secret recording of it. And then Joe Jackson said, this could be a really good track for them.
At what point did you suddenly realise that these guys had recorded your song? Was it when you heard it on the radio, or...?
Yeah, I think somebody said, listen out for it, it's on Radio Luxembourg tonight, or something like that.
Wow!
It was one of those sort of things, yeah, because it'd been kept secret, and they had recorded it without, let's say...
without your knowledge?
Without our knowledge. I think somebody, you know, the publisher had some sort of wind of it, but we hadn't given formal sort of concession for it. And so, yeah, the first time was Radio Luxembourg, really. It sounded fantastic. It just, you know, how the tracks used to sound on Luxembourg.
Absolutely. On AM radio, it just sounded brilliant, didn't it?
Fabulous, and just spitting out of the radio, you know, it was great.
But I'm still trying to get inside your head at the time. What was your initial reaction? Was it, wow, one of the biggest groups at the moment has recorded my song, or was it, what the heck are they think they're doing? Where's my money?
No, just sort of, I mean, everybody else's reaction was, for years and years, people were saying, oh, they stole your song, didn't they? And I said, well, you can't really steal songs. You can ask for licensing and things like that, but you can't actually steal a song. But that was the general consensus, you know, Jacksons have stole your song. And, no, we were just thrilled. Me and Dave, my brother, we wrote it together. And we just sat, you know, gobsmacked and thought, Christ, that is brilliant. We actually wrote it with Stevie Wonder in mind.
So, am I right to assume then, like I'm sure a lot of people will have assumed and still will to this day, that it's at least made you quite a bit of money?
Oh, yeah.
You still earn the writing royalties from the track. You never signed it away or anything like that?
No, we didn't. And that's the myth that people say, you know, they stole your song. But actually, it was sort of, you know, it was a double sort of whammy, really. There were two versions out there. Probably that was the reason we didn't get top of the charts in the UK anyway, because we shared the sales, if you like, between the two versions. And
to give them the due, they were very loyal to your version of it. They didn't completely change it. It's very loyal to the original, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And, I mean, we think they did a phenomenal version of it, and it's one of these sort of timeless tracks, really, isn't it? You know, everybody still dances to it, and it's just held the... It's
been handed down to generation to generation, hasn't it? And it went to the top 10 again in the late 80s with Big Fun. Clock covered it. There's been numerous versions, and there was a time when you were kind of side by side, wasn't there, on the chart?
Yeah, in fact, we got the first Top of the Pops on it, and that was amazing as well. We were actually playing in Hamburg, and we got a phone call. You're on Top of the Pops tomorrow.
Brilliant.
And so we got straight in there and did the first week on Top of the Pops. And then the Jacksons, bless them, couldn't manage it for the next week, but CBS had arranged it in the UK. So they had to put a video together. Remember that video with, you know, with all these sort of... I suppose it was one of the first sort of...
It was kind of like the first video substitute of a band not being there, wasn't it? Yeah, because before that it'd always been Pan's People, hadn't it? And this was the first kind of example of a video covering for a band.
That's right. And so that went on the second week, and that helped them up the chart the next week. But it was, people had sort of... different newspapers sort of took sides, and it's fabulous. A real healthy sort of battle, if you like.
Did you ever get a chance to meet the Jacksons? Did you ever get any feedback from Michael or his brothers or the management after it would become a hit?
Yeah, I mean, we did Top of the Pops together the second time. When I did Weekend...
Which is I've got to say, that is a fantastic record, before we go any further.
Well, I know a lot of people still use it for like a Friday night radio,
yeah.
And we were on the same show together. I did Weekend, and they did Destiny, which was pulled off the Destiny album as a single. And so, yeah, we were in the same hotel together, and then they turned up in the studio. And there was a bit of a sort of tired sort of BBC orchestra as well to accompany them. They couldn't have their own guys with them for some reasons. This is going back to the day when it was all about unions, that musicians' union and that. So they had to put up with these guys reading the dots who were not that interested and not really funky, if you like. But Michael still sort of turned the whole thing around and pulled it off, and it was still magic. I
still think it's one of the most fascinating stories in pop music history, and it's one that it will always be with you, and it's something that you'll leave behind. Yeah. What else have you been up to since then? What are you up to today?
At the moment, I'm sitting in my studio in the farm, and I'm always writing stuff, always doing stuff, and done lots of stuff for advertising, film and TV and stuff like that. And just keep myself busy, sort of in between sort of farm stuff, and if I get a reasonable good idea, I'll pop into the studio and stick it down, and I just sort of keep myself busy, if you like.
Keep the finger
not in the sort of the rat race, if you like. Don't
keep the finger in the pie.
That's it.
As it were. Well, yeah. Mick, I want you to introduce your version of the record. So, the other Mick Jackson.
Mick Jackson.
You introduce your version of Blame It on the Boogie.
Okay, here it is anyway. The original version of Blame It on the Boogie by Mick Jackson.